So here we go. There's a Democrat by the name of Mark Warner. He went on Fox and he slammed the idea of stimulus checks during this pandemic to Neil Cavuto. Take note of the argument that he uses.
We compromised, the Democrats a lot, the Republicans compromised a lot. We came up with a $908 billion
Senator
package.
Sanders is saying you over-compromised, Senator, that the view of the extreme left in your party is that you caved. Do you think you caved? What do you tell the Bernie Sanders and others who say that?
What I'm saying is I'm not going to be the Grinch that stole Christmas and say to people who lose their unemployment the day after Christmas, so long, farewell, or to folks who are going to get kicked out of their apartment on January 2nd, we're not going to do something to actually pay the landlords back for their lost rent. I mean, there will be people on the extremes. This is one area I actually agree with Rand Paul in his previous comment. I would much rather, and our bipartisan proposal said, let's give this money targeted to those most in need, like the unemployed, rather than giving everyone a check, whether they've had any economic loss or not. Now, that's not going to, at the end of the day, prevent me, because compromises are about, you don't get the whole thing. The fact that you have Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, together on this checks for everybody idea, I don't think that's a smart way.
Did you catch that at the end there? The fact that you have Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump together on this checks for everybody idea, I don't think that's a smart way. In Mark Warner's mind, that's an argument. I don't like Trump. I don't like Bernie. If they agree on something, it's got to be wrong. Oh. He has terminal Washington brain. He's swimming in the deep end of the swamp, and he's been there for decades. And he thinks like, what do you mean? The swamp is awesome. The swamp is correct. I know because I'm in the swamp. No, Mark Warner, that's a terrible argument. That's a terrible point. I don't care if it was Genghis Khan who came up with the idea of stimulus checks. You evaluate ideas and policies based on their own merits. None of this attack the messenger shit. Who cares who the messenger is? But this is how these guys think. If you're a corrupt corporatist, you look at Bernie Sanders for checks for everybody and you're like, how silly. He actually wants to help people. He wants to help everybody. I'm against that. Oh my God. And I also like when he said, I agree with Rand Paul on this. The extremes agree, but I'm with Rand Paul how you need to target this to those in need. As if a stimulus bill with no stimulus checks is targeting those in need. No, that's not the case. In fact, that bill, the Manchin-Romney one, that's the one that he's talking about, I think, or Manchin-McConnell, something like that. You bailed out the defense industry even though they don't need a bailout in that bill. How are you going to pretend like, we're just trying to help those in need like Raytheon and Boeing? They need a lot of help these days. We're only bombing 7 different countries. We need to get that up to like 12 or so. And on these issues, just for the record, Rand Paul is the extreme one. So he's agreeing with the extreme one as he pretends like the extremes are Trump and Bernie. Trump and Bernie are with mainstream American opinion on this issue of stimulus checks. 90% of the American people, 88 to be exact, say we want more stimulus checks. So he's with the extremes. He's with Rand Paul, who's libertarian leaning. Libertarians don't want to do any stimulus checks. That's the true libertarian position. Big government is bad. That would be big government. I'm against it. Oh, even though there's like a pandemic and an economic depression, don't care. I'm against it. As a matter of principle, I'm against it. That's how they think. And this corporate Democrat's like, I agree with Rand Paul. You got to give money targeted to those in need, like Raytheon and Boeing. By the way, the other thing that was in that bill, the liability shield. You know what the liability shield is? If you get COVID as a result of some company, they're taking away your ability to sue that company. If that company didn't take proper precautions, for example, put you in a dangerous situation. See, that's what that bill was actually for. Now, thankfully, this version of the bill is dead and gone, right? And There was more negotiating that happened, and you did get stimulus checks into the final version of the bill that they're voting on today. But it is only $600 stimulus checks as opposed to $1,200. It is only one time. You have unemployment insurance, which is good, but it's not backdated. Like, there are issues with it. It was clearly a negotiation, and half the people in the negotiation were like, how about we give corporations everything and people nothing? But I have to say, I really can't get over how smug and elitist this prick is. Doesn't he just look sleazy? This guy looks sleazy. He looks like he's going to sell you a vacuum cleaner, and the vacuum cleaner will fall apart when you first try to use it. But that argument of Trump and Bernie are for it, so it must be stupid. No, actually, you have to evaluate ideas on their own merits. So, for example, Trump and Bernie are both nominally for, they say at least, I want to end the wars in the Middle East. Does that mean that's wrong? Don't answer that, Mark Warner, because you actually probably don't agree with them on that either. Like, what an unserious reactionary goon who just agrees with Washington, D.C. swamp consensus, and he thinks like that makes him smart. And the extremes, like Trump and Bernie. So silly. You agree with 88% of Americans and want to give them more checks? I'm against that. By the way, that same poll, only 9% oppose checks. 9% oppose checks. So he's with 9% and he's bragging about it. And also this idea that only the unemployed need help. Are you insane? There are plenty of people with jobs who got their hours cut. Plenty of people with gig economy jobs, and those industries have slowed down massively. You know, if you're a driver and, you know, not as many people are traveling, so you're not picking up as many people from the airport, of course your business is going to be affected. The idea that only the unemployed need help is insane. It's insane. But that's what he's pushing because he's against the stimulus checks. Hate him, hate him, hate him. God damn it, we got to defeat these losers. They're so terrible. They're like callous and indifferent to people suffering, but they frame it as if the ones who are for the solutions are radical and extreme and insane.